than considered diplomacy.
Are you happy that your country has switched allegiances from a democracy to a communist state?
For me personally, I'm not. We should have taken our time and not be dictated and marching to the beat of a more dominant country. It's really China first, not Solomon's first.
And here in the Solomons, we found direct evidence that China's influence could have a sinister side.
So they rang you and said, we've got $1 million for you if you come to the hotel and accept the switch to China.
Yes.
Daniel Sudani is the premier of the Solomons' largest island, Malata. He says he was offered a $1 million bribe to back his country's switch to China.
You're suggesting that there are a lot of corrupt politicians in your government?
Yes.
But $1 million just to be pro-Chinese, I mean, that's a hell of a way to do business.
Oh, it is. It is a new way of doing things. It's really dangerous.
You think there's one bag of money, there's got to be more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They don't come, single.
Weeks ahead of our visit, we requested an interview with the Solomons' Prime Minister about his sudden recognition of China. While we're here, we try again in person, also wanting to ask him about his refusal to investigate the bribery allegations made by Premier Sudani. As we're waiting, a high-level Chinese delegation leaves the Prime Minister's office. Then, hot on their heels, Manasseh Sogavare himself hurries out, head down, and clearly in no mood to talk.
Mr. Prime Minister, 60 Minutes Australia, sir. We'd just like to ask you a couple of questions about China. Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, can we ask you about the bribery money, please? Amid all the claims of bribery, corruption and kickbacks, it appears the Chinese have another novel approach to increasing their presence here, like leasing this entire island of Tulagi for the next 75 years. All 10 square kilometres of it, including the deepwater port, oil and gas rights, fishing rights, forestry rights and tourism rights. The Chinese want all of it, and the locals are not impressed.
When I heard about it, I thought that China is a communist country and the Solomon Islands is a democratic country.
Margaret Manu is an unlikely enemy for China to make. But here on Tulagi, where land ownership is matrilineal, she's the voice of her people.
And the people here didn't want to be owned by the Chinese?
No.
60 Minutes has obtained a copy of the lease document, which is almost comical if it wasn't so sinister. The agreement was signed by Tulagi's provincial leader, who locals say hasn't been seen here since. And, luckily for Margaret and her people, it was ruled unlawful when it became public.
So there was no consultation?
No, not at all.
So the Chinese company just came in here and tried to have the agreement signed by one person, and that was it?
That's what happened, without the people knowing what's going on.
And what we're seeing now from our visits to the islands here is that the Chinese are coming in with soft power and lots of cash to buy out local officials to gain access to ports and airfields and resources that give them a controlling monopoly in the islands and thus give them control over this vital sea lane.
Coming up, not welcome in paradise.
We're being followed by a government car.
Why the government of Kiribati
There's something to do with the kinds of money that's being brought in.
doesn't like nosy reporters.